Now you can get excited and start packing and preparing yourself to start what will probably be one of the best experiences in your life. What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. If you guys don't know, I was an au pair in Paris for a 10-month period from August 2019 to June 2020, and I've gotten tons of questions on how I became an au pair, and the process is quite extensive, so I wanted to make a full video dedicated exactly to the process, step by step, of what I did from finding a family to getting my visa to arriving in Paris. I have not seen many videos detailing the au pair process step by step like this, so I just wanted to make one because this is something that I wish I would have had when I was going through the process, because it was so overwhelming and it felt like there were so many things I needed to do and so many documents I needed, and it was such a specific order that it can be very overwhelming. So I just wanted to make this video. Hopefully I could help some of you out. So if that's something that interests you, stick around to the end of the video. Now, since I was an au pair in France, this process is going to be specified towards becoming an au pair in France, coming from the United States, as I am American, and so this is the process that I went through and the process that I know the most, so that's what I'm going to be going over today. And of course, I am not an expert whatsoever, so it is important to always double check these steps, and especially the documents that you need to bring with you to your visa appointment to make sure that you're not forgetting anything. So with that being said, let's just jump right into the video. So step number one, deciding whether you want to go through a website or an agency. I touched on this a little bit in my au pair Q&A video, but you have two routes towards becoming an au pair. You can choose to go through a website, which is most of the time free, but you have to do all the work yourself in finding the family, reaching out to the families, picking the potential families, doing all your visa processes, and getting to the country. Or you can go through an agency. Most of the time, an agency does take a fee. It can vary from as little as a couple $100s to upwards of $1,000, but usually they take care of the matching process. They'll find a family for you. They will help you with your visa process, get all the documents together that you need, and help you along the way and be there as a support system throughout your process of becoming an au pair. I chose to go through a website because it is much cheaper and it gives you much more independence and autonomy when you're choosing your host family. Number two, decide your preferences. What country do you want to go to? What part of the country do you want to be in? Do you want to be in a big city? Do you want to be in a small town? Do you want to be in the mountains? Do you want to be by the beach? How many kids do you want to take care of? How long do you want to stay? And how soon can you start? Once you know all of these things, you'll be able to start narrowing down potential families to match with. Number three, start chatting with families. So now that you have all your parameters decided, you know where you want to go, when you want to start, how many kids you are comfortable taking care of, and how long you want to stay, now you can start looking for families and reaching out and sending messages to potential families that match your criteria. Now, don't get discouraged if you really like a family and you message them and you don't hear back from them right away, or if you hear back and you get a negative response and they tell you that it's not a good fit or that they found an au pair. Do not get discouraged. There are plenty of families to go around and you will definitely find a family that's right for you. It's really important to be patient and to not be in a rush in this process. I know you're excited and you want to find your perfect family and start your life in France, but have patience and go through the entire process to make sure that the family that you end up with is the best match for you. Next, once you've started chatting with some families, you're going to start narrowing down the families that you like the most. This is when you're going to start having Skype conversations with the family. Sometimes you'll have more than one. If you have a lot of families to choose from, you're going to want to have multiple Skype conversations to kind of get a feel for the family, ask all the questions you need to ask, and start narrowing your choices down. I do have a video on questions to ask your host family on the first Skype date. Definitely check that out because I go over 12 very important questions that you need to make sure that you don't forget to ask your family when you have your first Skype interview, to make sure that everyone's on the same page and there's no misunderstandings when you arrive. So you've narrowed down your options, you've chosen the best family for you. Now it's time for you to sign your au pair contract. So this is a very exciting time. You found your family, you guys have talked about your expectations. You're going to make out an au pair contract detailing the expectations from you, your expectations from the family, and you both parties are going to sign this contract. So you can find a sample contract copy on aupairworld.com. That is the website that I used when I was finding my au pair family. So you can use the sample contract, which I will try to link that down below, or you could always just have your family type up a contract and then have them sign it, send it to you, you to sign it, Either one works. After you sign your au pair contract, you're going to print out the OFI agreement that comes from the French government. That basically is the same thing as the au pair agreement. It's just a little more official, and it just specifies, again, what your expectations are, what the family is providing to you. They have to acknowledge that they are responsible for providing you accommodation, a specified amount of pocket money every month, health insurance. They have to acknowledge and state that they understand that you're not a slave and that there are certain guidelines that they have to follow. They can't overwork you, etc., etc. So it's just another security measure, another step to just acknowledge that both parties are on the same page and are clear about the expectations. Next, you're going to make your visa appointment. So as soon as you have the contract signed, go ahead and make your visa appointment. Now, when I made my visa appointment, the soonest appointment I could get was a month out. So it's very important, as soon as you know your family and you have your contract signed, go ahead and make that visa appointment, because most of the time there is going to be a little bit of a wait. It's also important to note that you will have to pay for your visa when you make the appointment. I believe the fee is around $110 US, so that's important to note as well. You will have to pay that when you make the appointment. Also, you have to make the appointment at a French consulate. Now, there are only, I want to say, about 12 consulates in the US that do the visa process. So there's one in Washington, D.C., New York City, LA, Houston, and a couple other places. So be mindful that if you live in a state that does not have a consulate, you might have to travel out of state. Thankfully, I was living in Austin, Texas, so I just had to do a 2-hour drive to Houston to go to the consulate, but I know some people who lived in Arizona or Utah who had to drive to Los Angeles, or people on the East Coast who had to go to New York City, so just be mindful of that. Also, if you don't have a passport, you of course will need this before you make your visa appointment, so that is the first step. Before you make your visa appointment, I would recommend getting your passport before you even start looking for families, or in the beginning. Even if you don't have a family, go ahead and get your passport procedure started, because that does usually take about 6 to 8 weeks, and you don't want that to hold up your process, because you do have to have your passport back before you can get your visa. So once you have your visa appointment, you have the date where you need to go in. Now you're going to want to start collecting your documents. Now, France is a country that loves to have a paper trail. They are very meticulous about the information that they require when you request a visa or you want to come to their country. So you are going to need a ton of documents. A few of the things you will need: a letter of motivation written in French detailing why you want to come to France, what is your plan when you get here, what is your motivation for being in the country. You will also need a copy of your most recent transcripts and your diploma. So for me, I gave a copy of my college degree translated into French and a copy of my transcript as well. You're going to need a copy of your driver's license, 2 visa photos. Now, these are not the same size as the passport photos. There's specific parameters that you need to have the photo size in, so I will try to find that and link that down below or put them somewhere on the screen. So you really want to make sure that it's the correct size, because if not, you may not be able to get your visa. You will also need to have a copy of your OFI agreement that we talked about that came from the French government, a copy of your au pair agreement, a copy of proof of address from your host family, so they need to send you a utility bill or something that proves that they live at the address that they stated. They will also have to send you a copy of their passports. So I had a copy of my host dad's passport and a copy of the host mom's passport as well. You will need a copy of your bank statement to show them that you have enough funds to be able to sustain yourself. Obviously, the host family will be providing you with accommodation and things like that, but you still have to have a certain amount of money in your bank account. I believe it was about $3,000. I'm not 100% sure. I will have to double check that, but they do want to see that you're not coming to France with absolutely no money at all, that you have at least a little bit of money saved up. You will also need to have health insurance. This is something that held me up when I applied for my visa. I did not know I needed this. I didn't have health insurance when I sent my application, and they ended up emailing me and saying, we cannot process your application until you have this. So that's very important to have. There's plenty of websites where you can get traveler's insurance for cheap, or this is something you can discuss with your host family. Most of the time, they'll be more than willing to cover the few month period of health insurance that you will need until you get to France, and they can set you up with the health insurance there. I also needed a health clearance, so this is just kind of like a physical examination that I had with my doctor, just stating that I'm in good health and that I won't be a burden on the French medical system once I get there, and that I'm okay to fly and to live abroad. And lastly, I needed a proof of flight and a receipt for the appointment. So when you make your visa appointment, they will email you a receipt. You're going to want to print that out, bring that with you to your appointment. And then I also had to have proof of flight. So this is something I would do as soon as you make your visa appointment. You should also book your flight. I know it can be intimidating booking a flight without having the visa, I know, but don't worry, you'll get your visa in time. It'll be 100% fine. I had to show them proof that I had booked my flight when I went to my visa appointment, so that is something to be mindful of as well. And it's recommended to get a refundable flight or something you can exchange just in case your visa doesn't get there in time. You can push the flight back further and you won't have to lose out on money. Okay, so after you've collected all your documents, you are going to attend your appointment on your appointment date. You'll have a mini interview, they'll go over your documents, and then they will send off your passport. So after you leave the appointment, they are going to keep your passport and they're going to process your application and give you the visa. Once they approve your application and you are granted the visa, it will be printed as a page in your passport, and then they will mail you back your passport after it's processed. So during this 6 to 8 week period, you don't have your passport. So step number 9 is the hurry up and wait. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks for them to process all of your documents and grant you that visa. So during the 6 to 8 week period, you're just waiting for a response. There's nothing more for you to do. You can maybe Skype with your host family a few more times, get to know them a little better. But other than that, you're just waiting to get your visa back. And step number 10, they have sent you your passport back in the mail with your visa inside, and you are all set to go and start your au pair year in France. Now you can get excited and start packing and preparing yourself to start what will probably be one of the best experiences in your life. I really hope this was helpful for you. I wish you guys the best in your au pair process. I hope it goes smoothly. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.